Hello everyone, this is the new episode of Don't Fret, and in this video I will talk about, I think, the top 15 reasons why you drop your hobby. In this case, I will talk about the instruments and my journey in music and my experience, but also most of these you can, with a bit of a stretch, apply to almost any hobby. So for those who into guitars, you can use this straight up. But for those who are not and not even planning to, I think this is still useful for you because you can translate this to your life, to your hobbies. I will also provide you some solutions to these issues, and at least my experience of what approach I would take when it comes to this. Issue number 1. I think one of the biggest issues is you don't have a clear definition of done, especially when you're training at home with many courses. You just start it, and then you would feel like, when should I how should I progress? Am I done with this course? Should I stay here? And I think based on your personality, most often people just either progress too fast or too slow. And both of them are very problematic, because I think if you just decide that you're staying on a course for way too long, then you get bored. Most of us will get bored. But if you progress too fast, then you will feel like you will reach a point where you will fail eventually, because you're progressing too fast, you haven't practiced enough, and then you will be super frustrated that alright, I'm at lesson 10 and I can't even continue, I must be bad. But in real life, you're not bad. The issue is only that you just didn't practice enough. So it's not so easy. Some of the lessons which are well thought out, I think they actually have some kind of definition of done. For example, with the Justin Good Guitar course I'm doing, there are a set of instructions, at least in the early part, of what you have to actually be able to do in order to get through it. Let me bring an example. For example, there are chord changes, and it says that you have to do 60 chord changes in a minute in order to pass. Just an example, of course. I think it's 30, by the way, in the beginning, but it doesn't matter. But then you can practice, and then you can see, all right, can I do this? And if you can pass. But usually it has 5-10 criteria. Let's play that. You already played 5-10 songs. I think it's quite clear what you have to achieve. But I think the best when it comes to this is to have a teacher. And with the teacher, I think you will be absolutely able to just progress well enough and you will not have this frustration. So I think that's the best solution, of course, if you can afford. But if you can't, I really suggest you to find a course which has a good set of rules and where it's segmented into modules well enough, so you will never feel that you're, I don't know, out of the blue and you just don't know how to proceed or when to proceed, because there's no worse feeling than that. Okay, so issue number 2. I think sometimes you have friends or kind of role models who you would like to follow. Maybe you've seen someone's video on YouTube. Maybe you just like a certain person, or maybe you have a friend who's actually doing this hobby for a bit longer than you. And I think in those situations, there's a possibility. Of course, this is based on the person, so not everyone's like this. But for example, I am certainly trying to achieve something they achieve, but most of the times they have 5-10 years of training and practicing behind that. So most obviously, they don't really understand you. That's the biggest thing. So if it's a friend, they will not understand you. They will not really understand your struggles, because it's been a long time for them, right? They just think that it's easy, because how they see it is how they learn a song. Let's say I don't know, if someone tells you to learn a song on a guitar, and they already playing an instrument, they just think it's all about memorizing it. But for you as a beginner, there's a lot more to that, right? You have to know how to hold the pick. You need to be comfortable with the picking patterns. The strumming patterns. You need to be comfortable with actually changing strings. Even that's very hard to just go from one string to another. So I think just general advice in this, I think for most people who's proficient in someone, it's very hard to actually explain how it is to be a beginner. And for them, the challenges are elsewhere. And there's nothing wrong with this, but all I would like to just suggest here is if you have a friend like them, just tell them that, all right, I'm not at your level, and maybe they can suggest you some good material, but you have some months and maybe years of studying until you can at least not even compete to them or compare to them, but just, I don't know, if they tell you to learn something, maybe you can proceed with that. But I think in the beginning, it's not the best idea. If you feel comfortable with it, it's fine, but for sure, I don't know, when you try to recreate something they do and you fail, you will feel bad. You will feel like you're incapable. Also, you will compare yourself to them, and then it's all problematic. Let's see issue number 3. I think a badly structured lesson can be a problem if they are too long or not customized. Okay, let's do it again. So I think a badly structured lesson can be a problem. If it's too long, if it's not customizable enough, if it's boring, or if it's a bit hard to grow with it, demanding too much, not bite-sized enough, hard to follow, too much to grasp, that can be an issue. And I think you have to be mindful about your practice. You have to find something, a course, which actually works well for you. Sometimes you have to try out more. And again, your practice time should be very mindful. It's not even necessarily about hours of practice per day, but it's 10 minutes, but that should be mindful. Of course, the more you practice until a point, the faster you will progress in some sense. But I think you should do it more often rather than longer sessions. Yeah. And again, I think sometimes mindless practice in a sense of having joy with the instrument is good and it's needed. But at the same time, you have to know that the more time you spend with a mindful practice with a good structure, the faster you will grow in this. Issue number 4, I would say it's there's a huge issue with being too professional and trying to be ready before you get into it, or just, I think this relates to the further, the issues before, but also when you just try to make something perfect, and that's why you're not progressing with the lessons, for example, because you feel all right, I mispicked it once, let's do it again and again. I don't think it's needed. I think you should get to a okay level, 80% or something like that, to get most of it right, and then just proceed. And you can still go back and practice, but I think just meddling too long on something you already kind of know, just because it's not perfect, that will slow you down for sure. So don't wait until you get perfect, or else you get bored. Issue number 5. So I think one of the major issues with everyone around us in every hobby is that if you fail, you will get discouraged. And it's not an easy thing to unlock, how not to be. But all I can say, I think there will be good days and bad days, like with everything. And if you actually started to track it, statistically, you will, I think, enjoy more time compared to the losses or compared to the bad days. So maybe if it helps for you, track it, just make a little diary and just write down, all right, I had very good practice today, I had a bad practice today. I think the only way to get rid of this feeling is to have a kind of timeline of what you achieved so far. And even with songs, you should just maybe, break it into segments, and maybe you should just see that, all right, yesterday I couldn't do this, today I can. So I think some positive mindset in this helps, because you can do everything and anything, within a certain amount of time. Like a lot of things are possible with practice, but in order to practice, you have to stay in the loop. If you get discouraged, then that's a big issue, and then you will not really put your mind to it. So yeah, it's hard, but try not to get discouraged by fails. Failing is the part of the process, and try to see how you actually manage to win over these, like how you manage to correct certain stuff, how you manage to learn certain stuff. Issue number 6 is a huge one. I think there's a problem with appreciating small wins, but I think for the solution for this is just appreciating small wins is everything, really. If you don't learn how to appreciate small wins every day, then it will not go easy on you. Because the thing is, you will make issues. I mean, you will make mistakes, for sure. So I'm not saying that just to pretend that you don't make any mistakes. You will. And that's fine. Just try to learn from them. Try to know, okay, I made this mistake. This is what I have to practice. It's fine. But all I'm saying is, when you do something good, where credit is due, you should give it to yourself. Let's say today you didn't drop the pick, then good job. What else? You crossed the strings without plucking something accidentally, good job. All the tones were clear, good job. I don't know, yesterday you did 30 chord changes within a minute. Today you did 31, good job. That's one more than yesterday. And if you keep this up, within a month it will be 60. So I think you should try and have a positive mindset on these things, while still being aware of all the problems and issues and challenges you have, because that's very important. Just be aware of them, try to correct them, know what's your weak side. You should know what is your weak side. But at the same time, just if you do something right, give that credit, all right? And just don't think about like, all right, this is too small, I did nothing. I mean, like, that's not even a big achievement. Everyone can do that, but that's not true. Even you couldn't do it a few days ago, so don't pretend that it's easy. It's not. You put in hard work, and whatever comes out of it, if it's an improvement, it's an achievement. That's good. And also, again, like small things. And you know what's a small thing? Have you practiced today? If you did, then you already had something that you can just put a check mark by, right? You actually achieved something today, because that's the most basic level of this. Actually getting to a point where you just reward yourself for practicing, because believe me, it's not easy to just sit there every time you I don't know, put in your calendar that you should be there. It's not that easy. Sometimes you have something else to do. Sometimes you're demotivated. A lot of things can happen. So in my opinion, even just practicing every day, you already achieved something great. So I think you should just say good job and be happy with it, however it goes. Number 7, I think there's a concept called breaking the chain, or a lot of applications and self-improvement people say that you shouldn't break the chain. Okay, I don't want to bash on anything. Maybe it works for someone. I don't believe in this. I think it's very depressing and destructive, for me at least, because I think sometimes life comes and you don't practice for a day. Sometimes you don't practice for a month. Sometimes you don't practice for who knows how many times. But still, do not let it fool you into thinking that you cannot restart. You only fail if you drop it for good. Stay in the hobby, no matter what. I think it's demotivating. There's a short story I would tell. I used to read books, and I don't know, somehow during uni time it just went away, this habit, because I don't know, too many things to read for the school. And yeah, I just tried to bring it back, and I started this application. I started counting it. I was at a very good, 100 day or something with every day I read. And then all of a sudden there was something, maybe I wasn't home, I don't even know. Who knows, maybe I was just tired. But the thing is, I missed the day, and then the counter went back to 0. And it was very demotivating, actually. I didn't feel like, oh, it's so rewarding to have this. It's very rewarding until you keep it up. But the one day you miss it, you will feel bad. But you shouldn't. Because life is not perfect all the time, and you can't keep something up every single day. You will miss out. And the only question is that if you miss out, when you miss out, how you're actually handling it. Are you returning to it, or are you just bailing on it? Because most people who fail in these hobbies are the people who bail on it, not the people who missed a day or two or even a week. So be realistic. You will miss. Right now you should write it down that for sure I can assure you that you will miss a practice day, more than one practice day. So just get back in the saddle whenever you can and just do your best. But don't be so inquisitive with yourself in all these matters. 8th issue is meddling over gear for too long, or having a gear acquisition syndrome instead of practicing. I think gear doesn't matter for you, especially as a beginner. It doesn't really matter. Just leap into it. You're not good enough, sorry, but you're not good enough to worry about gear. Get something versatile, something long-lasting, and forget it, or get something cheap, really. Go used. Don't try to optimize this, because you don't have to, because you don't even have enough information to optimize this. I already made a video on this, one of my previous videos, talking about my experience, how I very often struggle with this, and I always try to optimize it and get the best thing there is. But I think that's really stopping you from progressing, it's stopping you from practice, it's stopping you from being great. So the thing is, as you get better and better and better, and as you get more into the hobby, let's say you would do it for a year, 5 years, 10 years, you will purchase more gear because you get better and better, and you will want more. Maybe you want more strings, maybe you will have specific needs. It doesn't matter. At that point, it's all right to buy things, but just let your let your skill match up to the gear you own, all right? Unless you're a collector or something, then it's fine. But if you want to learn an instrument, don't say that the instrument is what limiting you, because no. Just go on YouTube, check, like, most major artists have a video where they actually went to like a kid's store and they got like a fake guitar, and actually they manage to squeeze something out which you can call music, which you can call, it's not even that problematic to listen to. Is it the perfect state? No, but it's still fine in some sense, okay? So believe me, I think the cheapest electric guitar most of the times you can get from the bigger brands will suit you just fine. And I'm sure there is no issue with learning on that. So yeah, just don't over-optimize this. Issue number 9, not enough rest, or surrounding yourself with too much of this. I think most of us really need rest, whatever we are talking about, right? You need rest from your partner sometimes. You need rest from your friends, from your family, from your hobbies and habits, even from work. Like, there's little aspects in life where you don't need a bit of rest from in order to embrace it fully. And that doesn't mean that you don't like the person. That doesn't mean you don't want to be with the person, or you don't like a certain food, right? I love crepes, for example. I really love them, but if I ate crepes all the time, every day, then for sure, within a month, I would burn out of it. So I think this is the same thing with this. Most of us need rest, so I don't think you should do practice more than 4 or 5 days. Also, I don't think you should surround yourself with this that much. Do other things in life. It may seem like a good idea to just like spend all your time with guitars, or like your specific hobby, or to watch videos all the time, but I think you will burn out. I'm not saying this applies for everyone. All my ideas and guides and tips, they don't really match everyone, but I think a lot of people will feel the same way as me, because I know that like at the beginning I'm very motivated. I really want to do it as much as I can, and I watch videos and I surround myself with it, and then I usually feel that, all right, I'm just getting this sensation of being burnt out of this, because just that's all the thing that I see. And for a lot of us, this is a hobby. It's not your full-time job. It's not your it's not something that makes up your life. You have other things too, and just appreciate them. And For most people, you will feel more refreshed if you just give yourself a little break. And also, sometimes your muscles need a break, your hands need a break, your brain needs a break, and the next day you will be better. That's how it works. All right, issue number 10. You're not doing baby steps, but huge leaps. And that's a problem, because I think there is no rushing in instruments, and also no rushing with hobbies. Most of the hobbies, you can't rush it. It will take time. And I think you should get okay with it. You should appreciate your small wins, as I said, and accept that this process will take time. But it will worth it, most likely. And also, it's very possible that you will start with Twinkle Twinkle Little Star or something. But you should start small and build from the ground up. Believe me, I really understand, because I feel the same way. I always want tremendous jumps. And for example, when I first started this course, I don't know, just first questions in my brain was like, all right, how fast I can get to a certain result. But that's not it, right? It's the journey and not the end result all the time. So I think you should enjoy the whole process, and you should not try to jump ahead of you, because you can't just be a Superman. That's not how it works. And I think there are two major things in this. Either you're doing it or you're not. So don't let yourself burn out into not doing it. And when you do it, you should just be on your level and maybe push yourself slightly, but just don't over push yourself. And there are no workarounds most of the times in this, so you can't rush it. I do try to rush it, but I always regret it. So don't try to rush it for sure. Number 11. I think a big issue for a lot of people, including me, that we are too afraid to fail, and it is easier to quit than to actually fail. But I think you shouldn't be, because no one's born being able to do anything. It's not your job, it's not your life, and maybe you're not even a kid anymore, so you have a life outside of this. Most certainly. And you should enjoy the process with all the good and all the bad aspects of it. And then you will have a certain balance. And yes, when you fail, it will be a bittersweet feeling, but still, with every fail, there's a pair of greatness, a pair of good. So it's also balanced. You will not always fail. Something after practicing for long enough, something that you failed before will have a counterpart, which is a win. So just wait. You just have to keep doing it until you get there. I think a huge issue can be that there's not a clear path ahead of you. You don't even know what you want out of this. I think an easy solution for this is just to ask yourself why I want this. What do I want to do with it? Where I want to get? Because oftentimes I think we don't have like clear goals, and we just do it because of someone else, or we've seen it in a movie because it's cool, and there's nothing wrong with that, alright? Because most of us start like that. We went to a concert and we just got motivated. We seen someone on YouTube. We had a friend. There's a song we loved. Maybe that's a better part when there's a song you love. But still, I think very often, like especially in a younger age, you would feel like, all right, I'm doing this to be a rock star, and there's nothing wrong with that. But my advice in this is just, it's okay to have these kind of feelings and ideas. But I think you should search for bigger or deeper motivations and also more reachable goals at the same time. Do you want to gig in the future? Do you want to do concerts? At least I think you should like first select your level. Where do you want to get? Like, because it's very different if you just want to play for yourself versus you want to gig versus you want to be a very popular musician. Because a lot of these need different approaches and a different mindset. So let's say those are your long-term goals, but you should also have short-term goals. Okay, and the goals should be reachable. Let's say within this year I learn 10 chords. And if you learn 15, that's fine. If you learn 8, that's also fine. But you should have some kind of goal that you want to reach, and you should both have a bigger goal or like an end goal or an aspect of like where do you want to be within 10 years or something. But you should also have smaller goals, and there's nothing wrong with any of these. If you want to gig, that's all right. If you want to just go out with the friends over a campfire, that's all right. If you want to write songs, that's all right. But just doing it because it's cool, it's not good enough. Not for me, but for you, because your brain will just stop doing this just because you want it to get cool. Because I think people change, and I don't know. I had tons of clothes in my wardrobe at some point, which I found cool when I was like 15, and then I got 20 or something, and then all of the clothes were like, they made no sense to me. And I think just doing guitar because it's cool, as time passes, it will be very hard to just rely on that solely. So I think you should have something bigger, okay? It should not be something crazy big if you don't want, but you certainly should have more motivation and more reachable goals in you, and not just something very vague and something that more likely will change in the future. So yeah, that's my advice. Number 13. Thinking you're too old, thinking you're not suitable, or you're not cut out for this, for whatever reason. And I think this is our brain's coping mechanism of like just opting out of something we are just a bit too afraid to do because we are afraid of failure. I think there's a good solution to this is understand with motivation and practice, you can do almost everything. At least you can do crazy things. You can reach heights that you wouldn't ever get. It's not about talent. Talent is very needed. I mean, talent is great, right? But the thing is, talent will not deliver you into a great place. It will not make you be a good musician, or talent will not help. It will help you, but it will not make you be good at a certain sport, all right? Like, I'm sure there's a lot of people with talent just lying on their beds and doing nothing with it. And that's also okay, but all I'm saying is don't think about talent, whether you have it or not. It doesn't matter. If you want to reach a goal, you should just push for it, however hard it is. It doesn't matter. If you want to reach it, you should go for it. But yeah, I'm just repeating myself. The thing is, I think people, if you check online, play several instruments at the same time, and they sing and play guitar, and that feels impossible very often. And actually, there are a few people who have some kind of disabilities, and they also do it. So there should be no excuse for anyone if they want to learn it. I mean, for most people, I know there are a few people who actually like have certain issues, but I think you can see great motivation out there. If I remember correctly, Django Reinhardt had 2 paralyzed fingers, and he, like, just listen to anything he did. You will certainly not say that he's not good at what he's doing. So humans are very flexible, right? We are very good at adapting a certain situation, a certain something. That's why we are here, kinda. And the thing is that you are also able to do it. It will take time, it will take practice, but there's a lot of examples out there where people did it, and you will label it as talent. I think it's just hard work and practice. Of course, I'm not saying there's no such thing as talent, but you can do the same with enough practice and enough hard work. And it's hard. Like, that's why you say it's hard work. It's super hard. And even I don't know where my journey leads me, but the only thing I know, if I really want to reach a certain level in this, I need to push myself. And also, don't say that you're too old, because, like, why are kids any better? I hear it very often that, like, people say, all right, I'm too old to learn this. My brain is not that flexible. I'm not smart enough, or I'm too old. And that's not true. I think, okay, maybe kids' brain are a bit more flexible and they learn easier a bit. But at the same time, kids have less motivation. Kids have less money, less time. They are very easily distracted. Why you're not? You have more money most of the times. You have more motivation, more clear goals, less distractions. Very often you will have a better chance at learning something as an adult, because just all these things I mentioned. So it doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter how young you are. If you want to do it, just do it. And you will progress. And just be happy about that. All right, issue 14. I think it's a big issue if it's not a habit, your hobby, and you have no clear practice time. I think either is needed, or maybe both. I think you should either form a habit of it, So you will get into a situation where you actually crave it. All right, I didn't do it today, I want to do it. But also habits are a very complex topic. So I think having clear practice times, having a good system that you can follow is very important, because whenever the habit part doesn't work, you will also have a certain system. All right, my alarm goes off every day. I don't know, when the alarm goes off, I just sit down, no excuses, and just get at it. You need to be consequent. That's one big thing. It doesn't mean that you have to nail it every single day, but you have to be consequent. Because I don't know, if you miss 15 days or even a month, like 30 days in a year, but the remaining 300 days you practiced, then you're good. So the 15th and last issue I would mention is caring about successful people instead of you. It doesn't matter what others do. It doesn't matter what course they took. It doesn't matter what's their practice schedule or how they finger a chord. Of course, I will say to you that, like, I don't know, most of the times you should try out someone's schedule, because very often it's good. There's no denying in that. But if you feel it's not for you, just don't do it because, I don't know, Bill Gates did it, or don't do it because that's how Slash practiced. I don't know, you see how Slash practice and you try it and you like it, that's perfect, just use it. There's nothing wrong with that. But don't be like, all right, I'm doing this practice routine that I've seen somewhere and it's a huge struggle and I'm not happy and I don't think anything's really working in this, but some great, I don't know, very well-known person did it, so it must be good. No, that's not how it works. You're your own person. Try not to be someone else. Just doesn't matter how other people do it. Use it as a guide. But if it doesn't work, change it. Find something else. Different people have different needs, different skills, different body. You need to find a solution for yourself. So you need to tailor it to your liking. You're not them, you're you. And I think very often, even with chording and fingering, there's a basic chart of how to do it, but most of the times you do it how it works or how you're comfortable. That's why a teacher is very good, because I don't know, if they see that you're not able to do something, and also they think that even with like months of learning, your fingers are too small for a certain way of doing it, then they will most probably give you some advice of how to change it, because that's what people do. They adapt. You will just work with what you have, and that's perfectly fine. That's absolutely fine. Don't feel bad about it. That's the greatest part of humanity and us being us, that you can actually adapt to a lot of situations. And that's not how we reach that state, right? That we all were the same. How we got here is that everyone was a bit different. Everyone offered something different from each other. And I think it's a very, very precious attribute that we have. I think there will be one or two extra I would mention. I think the first extra, I would add some tips and ideas from me. I think learning an instrument is hard, and the rewards are very different compared to, I don't know. For example, for years and years, I had no issue with, I struggle with studying guitar. I certainly do, but for years and years, I haven't had an issue with playing games for hours. And again, just a disclaimer to all gamers, I have no issue with it, so whatever I say is just my opinion in the current state I have. But yeah, I had no issues playing a game for hours and hours and days and months, and I spent so much in game time to learn something, to do something, to get somewhere. And the thing is, most often, like in many games, you just lose that progress because, I don't know, your save file gets, corrupted, or like with online games, sometimes there are seasons, and let's say you get something today, and in 2 years that will be gone. But maybe you spent 1,000 hours in it. A lot of people do. I will not count how much time I put in games, but if I have to, I'm sure it would be like hundreds and hundreds. And what always bothered me, that knowledge or that achievements are just not following me in life. And that's why, like, let's say an instrument or a lot of other hobbies, of course, is just something that really speaks to me, because I feel if I do it for 5 years, if I do it for 10 years, it will remain with me. I know this because somehow muscle memory works so differently compared to, I don't know, achieving something in a game. And I don't know, I learned something on a piano when when I was a kid, and that was years ago, more than 10 years ago for sure, 15 years ago, who knows. And the thing is that I can still do it, and I barely practiced it over the years, but somehow it just remained with me. And I can't say the same for some of these things in games, because you will again, I think that can also be made into a sport, so I will not talk about competitive gaming for now. I will just try to look at it as a hobby, as some lower level, I want to enjoy myself kind of hobby. And yeah, and for me, no matter how hard it was, no matter how monotonous it was, I just somehow managed to do it. And I was always thinking that why is it that I can do that, but I can't do the same with an instrument, for example, or some other hobby. And I just realized that somehow it brings you an instant pleasure. And I don't know, somehow just having these small wins are more easier and more clear. Because with your guitar journey, there will be no pop-ups windows, right? All right, you achieved this, boom, you got this. Or there will be no flashy blue and I don't know, green and who knows what kind of colors showing you what kind of great item you got. With guitar, your wins will be the ones that you decide, all right, this is a win. And there will be no fancy UI and there will be no fancy messages. I think people at gaming companies learn it well, how to reward a person. And I don't think actually a guitar is that different, but you just don't have that interface. That's why a lot of people try with just gamifying their hobbies. And I think that's what I kind of try to suggest to you too, that just try to appreciate small wins and try to, I don't know, get points where you would say that, okay, I reached this milestone and I'm great. You should have that. But again, I think playing a game and doing an instrument, you should find balance between them, because both are important. Or of course not just games, but watching some light TV series like The Office or something like that. You need those too, right? I'm not shaming it, or I'm not saying that whoever watches it, that's a big issue and you should just do something, I don't know, very majestic or something very long lasting, because that's not how we work. But for me, it's a big convenience in life to know that I'm learning something that will remain with me, and I'm also doing relaxing stuff that will just go away and where I just, I don't know, turn off my mind. And that's very good. I need that and you need that. So I think my advice, try to balance life, and if it also makes you happy to learn something that lasts with you, then choose a hobby like that, and I don't know, just put time into that too, and not just those easy to do hobbies which actually just somehow disappear on you later on. Also, I would suggest just to make strategies on how to overcome challenges and also make notes. You should find the hardest parts. Okay, is it bar A chords? And how can I make it better? What are my struggles with it? I think you should identify these key points that make you unhappy and just try to understand how to make it better. One other big issue is just we have all these excuses very often. Our fingers hurt, we're not cut out for this. And I think none of these or none of the likings of these are just true. And one advice from me, I think during your journey in any hobby, you will feel at some point what I already mentioned, that you're not cut out for this, and it's impossible to learn something. All right, maybe it's a chord, maybe it's a song, maybe it's a technique. It can be a lot of things. But whenever you feel like it, I urge you to just search something on the internet, some small thing that you can learn within a day, because that will bring you back to the ground of reality. Because within one day, your belief of something's impossible will just tilt into, all right, this wasn't even that hard. But you should just, learning guitar is not doable within a day, but I will bring you an example. I don't know, I just wanted to learn shuffling cards, and I found the shuffle, maybe it's Ruffle Shuffle, I don't even remember the name, doesn't matter. And I purchased cards, and I tried to learn it, and it was a disaster. The cards were falling out of my hands all the time. I couldn't even separate the cards into two. And after 1 hour, I just felt, all right, I'm not cut out for this. This is impossible. I genuinely felt it's not doable. That I will never ever do this. It's practically impossible. And my brain turned on, and it was just like my brain was just spamming me with all these feelings that like you can't do it, your fingers are short or whatever, like your dexterity is not good enough. And for some reason I decided to push through, but I'm not kidding. I really had a feeling that it's impossible. And after a few hours, it just got, I wouldn't even say easier. This was the kind of something that just kind of clicked. And I did it, I don't know, a few hundred times. It just didn't work out. But after some point, it just clicked. I don't know what changed, but that's how experience works. Because your body and your brain always tries to just enhance it and get it better and better until you get to an iteration where it actually works. So I think just try something like this. And when you actually break that point and you just manage to learn it, even if it's not perfect, you will feel all right. This wasn't even that hard. And when you look back, you will feel that, or I don't even know what was wrong with me. How could I ever thought this is not doable? It's so easy. Yeah. So I think just try something like this, something very easy, which maybe feels weird at first, but you can do it within a day. And that will bring your motivation back, because that's how guitar works. But just sadly, sometimes this threshold where you can get to a point where you just jump across the fence and reach into a garden of, achievements. You just have to work more for it. So that's that. You need to know this. But yeah. And also, I think like at some point, these things will turn into routine. You should embrace it, because this changes. At the beginning, it's much more fun. When you start to get to know things and you have to just practice and practice and practice the same thing over and over again, it can get monotonous, it can get less fun, but that's also part of the process. So I think that's why you should always try to have a good system of when you should move. And then you will always have something new to learn, something that you don't know very well yet, but you can always just return and practice a bit all this old stuff that you're not perfect in, but you already know it good enough not to pose you a challenge, which kind of turns your brain on. There's a second extra I would mention, and I think if you don't, and this is very important, if you don't enjoy the hobby itself, and you're pushing something on you don't like, don't do it for me. Don't do it for your friends or any expectations outside you. It's okay to drop it. You're not a quitter. Just start something else that brings you joy. Because first and foremost, it should bring you joy. It should bring you happiness. It should be in line with all the things you want. This is a very hard advice for me, because I think sometimes my brain tries to just make us feel we don't want this, we are not good at it, and we quit because of that. That's not good enough, all right? I don't want to push you into quitting because you feel like you're not good enough or because it's hard. But also I'm saying that very often, the world imposes on us certain hobbies, habits, whatever, even though it's not something that we want or not something that works for us. So I think you will have a hard time deciding, but just please sit down, have a day or two, like a good thought, because if you feel that bad about something, you should really ask yourself, is it just my demotivation, or is it my struggle with the course materials, or is it really just me not wanting to do this? This is a very important thing to decide. And if you really, really in your heart, you don't want to do this, if the idea of playing the guitar is not, or any habit or hobby, is not something that excites you, it's like, just drop all the bad feelings, all right, that like how hard it is or whatever. If you just like strip it down and you feel like this is not something that excites me, I don't care where I will be in 5 years, 10 years, I don't really care about this, I'm just doing it because, someone like not just told me so many times, I just felt like I also have to do it. But if at the end of the day, if you really feel like you're doing something, anything that you don't want to, just don't do it. Just quit. Don't feel bad. Don't care about anyone else's decisions or how they will say that you're a quitter. It doesn't matter. Just drop it and with the time you have, just find something that you actually love and actually happy to do. That will be hard too. So that's why I'm saying don't just quit because it's hard, because everything will be hard. I can't even recommend any instrument or other hobbies that will be easier than this, because nothing will. Maybe something starts easier and then gets harder. Maybe something gets like very hard in the beginning, but it gets much easier. But most of the times there's like no easy way around this. But at the same time, if you don't like it, just don't do it. It doesn't matter what people say. You should be the commander of your life. You should decide what you will do and what you want to do, and that's a very, very important aspect. So, like, there are some ending words and just some recap. A lot of people give up. There are so many used guitars from beginners on the market. Don't be one. Just keep up the great work and just don't stop it. Also think about your priorities and why you want to do it. If you don't want to do it badly, don't just idolize it because you think it's good. Just find something that you actually want to do. There will be issues. There will be days when you break the chain, family work, chores, a lot of things. Just understand that it will happen. So some smaller tips in a bite-sized format. If you don't want to watch the whole video, you can just watch this part, and then you will understand where you're at. So I think you should start small, be consistent. You should have clear goals, and you should make it easy for yourself. Also, I think you should track your progress so you can see where you're at, how you're growing. That will help. You should be patient, and you should know your goals. And some other important advice, I think, just willpower and motivation and also practice is much stronger than talent itself, so just rely on that. But also do not always rely on willpower. Sometimes having a good system, good practice schedule can help tremendously with these things. One size doesn't fit all, so what works for some may not work for you. Search your own path. Just don't listen to me all the time, alright? Maybe some of the things I mentioned resonates with you, maybe some will not. So that's also fine. This is not some huge book of truths where you can't oppose anything. Missing a day is no biggie. You will miss days, more than one, believe me. Just get back at it, okay? Just one thing you promise, you always get back at it, and then you will be good. Also, things will not be perfect, as many people already said. Just perfection is really the enemy of getting anything done. Also, just think sometimes it's easier to focus on one thing, but for example, I'm doing bass and electric at the same time. I find joy in it, so again, don't let anyone tell you how to do it. You should try out what they're suggesting. Also, motivation is not always the same. It will just dip. Sometimes it will be higher. You should keep it in check, but don't be surprised if you don't have the same type of motivation all the time, every day, all year. And that's it. That's it in a nutshell. It's a huge nutshell, actually, like big. But still, I really hope that you find something in this that helps you, something that resonates with you. If it's only one thing, it's already worth it. Also, I need to tell you, I have a podcast too, and the second episode of it is on hobbies. I think many of what I said here is in there too, maybe more in depth. So if this was helpful for you, maybe listen to that too, because I have some personal stories. Like, for example, this card story, it's a bit more, it's told in a more in-depth form. So, I don't know, I think it should be, maybe it will be, useful too. So check it out. It's called the Venn diagram. You can find it in the video. I'm in a link. You can also find it on my website, which is conradvenn.com. You can also subscribe, of course, and like this video if you love the content. And also, I really appreciate any suggestions or topics that you want to hear about. If you have your own struggles, if you have anything that you want to know more, just feel free to make a comment or contact me in any ways, and I will try to incorporate it into my videos and maybe answer your questions, or maybe just talk more about a topic that you felt like it doesn't had enough time on this. So thanks for listening, have a great day, and I will see you on my next video.